Okay, hello everybody, those of you who are joining us already, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, thanks for joining us today. I'm Drew, we're here at Treehouse. Today we're joined by Kenna Reed, who's our featured artist this month. So Kenna is going to be talking to us about her project on the wall behind us here, Rainbow State. We'll go through some of those photos. So super excited to have Kenna. Her work has brought a lot of colors to the shop this month. So Kenna's a photographer, also works as a florist.
Yeah.
So we'll see a lot of that influence her work and experience with flowers and botanicals, how that influences a lot of her kind of photography and approach to her art. So I think that's enough for me to start. And let's hear from Kenna.
Hi guys. Yeah, so I did a series of kind of like more monochromatic images. I titled the whole piece Rainbow State. Rainbow State. We did like a photo red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. We just really I wanted to do something fun and colorful. And I had originally started, my first client in photography was Pico, which is actually downstairs from us. It's like a floral boutique. And since then, I've started shooting a lot of fashion and product photography. So it was kind of a good reason and excuse to kind of return back to those roots of more like floral and product photography or product style photography. Yeah, so we just wanted to do something fun and colorful. And I shot like the subject and all the images is actually my husband. He's a trooper. Those are his feet. Yeah, we used to shoot a lot together for fun. And I think as life has gotten busier, we have less opportunity to do that. So this was like a really fun kind of like tag team project for us to work on. Yeah, and I hope, we can kind of swipe through and see that's his back. If anybody was worried. But yeah, we sourced all the flowers locally. We wanted to really work with like what was in season and what was available to us. This is like a really cool flower from like a fan palm that was actually in my my auntie's backyard that we picked. And so yeah, we had a lot of fun foraging for all the materials for the shoot.
So what is the process like with these? You're finding the flowers? Mm-hmm. Is that the starting point?
Yeah, I mean, I think like for this one, it was like I knew that I wanted to do like one of each of the colors, right? So it kind of started there where we're like, okay, what can we get that is red or orange or green or whatever it was? And so we started there, and then I had backdrops that I was using to shoot on. And then from there, it was really just kind of us, Dalton's over there in the corner, but it was us just kind of having fun with it and like seeing what we could do. Like there were so many fun outtakes from the shoot and like funny videos of like just trying to like get into these like weird poses and just find a way to create a composition that was fun and playful, but still really emphasize like the color of the flowers in the backdrop. This was like one of my favorite outtakes that we did. Blue was a really hard one because the only blue flower that we could really think of was like the blue jade, which is like it might be in season, but we couldn't find any on Oahu. So we started looking for white flowers, which we ended up settling with like the plumeria. But this was like another one from my auntie's yard, the noni fruits, and in the end we did it. It was fun and weird, but I like the kind of more weird photos, and I think I'm always struggling with that balance of like, okay, like how weird is like too weird, and this one felt like a little more abstract compared to the other images, so it didn't quite fit in, but yeah.
Yeah, I love the balance too, having the two there. You can feel like the pressure between his knees as he's like holding him up. keep them from falling down. So we have some.
Oh yeah, that's that.
So some just kind of your other work. So this is like not a totally new theme, right?
Yeah.
Working with people and botanicals
Exactly.
together. So how, when you're kind of doing this work with the natural forms and then the human figure, what is it like staging, posing? How are you as a director? I guess, is it something, are you responding to the model? Is it, or you coming in with something in your head that you already have it figured out?
I usually try to not go in with like too much of a like idea of what I want to do, just because I feel like it really depends. Like it depends on like the lighting, it depends on like your subject, it depends on like what materials you have available. So I've never been a big believer in like a mood board or anything like that, because I just feel like it limits you and it keeps you from trying different things. And I put this together just because I thought it was something that I was kind of looking at myself like in the last month, of just like looking at kind of like the natural progression of photography. So like the first two was like when I was shooting for Pico. And I was like a young, like 20, I think I was like 23. I like had a 2-year-old daughter. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to do something creative, and Pico was my first client that kind of trusted me to just give me creative control and like do what I wanted to do. And they had like a white wall, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I love how clean it is. Like it's so simple. Like it's like we can just focus on like the flowers. And we had shop workers who were like shy or who didn't want to be in the photo, so we would find ways to like use their hands and use like that second one is Hadley. She's like another amazing artist in Kaka'ako, and we were just like working in the shop, and I was like, come over here and like hold this plant. And so I've always kind of had this, like, I've always been really drawn to like more anonymous subjects. Like, so it's not so much like the focal point isn't so much who the model is or what they look like, or if, whatever that is. So it's more about composition and color and keeping things like fun and playful and kind of abstract and weird and all of those things.
Yeah, I love that. And just going back to some of this work, like,
Yeah.
I think that's something that's always kind of stood out in your work is the composition, and because a lot of it is really at the heart of it, it's really basic subject matter. It's a body, a flower, a natural element, and then the color. So where does this come from? Like, what is your background as an artist? What's informing these compositions for you?
I think I had an interesting upbringing. My mom, I grew up with her working for Chanel. She was like in charge of opening up all like the stores in like the US, and she was in charge of all the Hawaii, California, and like Guam stores. So we grew up like going to New York and Paris like all the time. Like it was like multiple times a year for like fashion week and to go see like museums and exhibits. And my mom like still is like a very like avid art collector in Hawaii, and so she's always kind of pushed us towards like, let's go see this like weird Broadway show, or let's go to this museum, or like all of her friends are just really interesting people in like the fashion and art world. So I feel like she's always kind of pushed us towards that. Like we always had really weird toys growing up, and like I don't even know how to explain it. She's just like a bizarre person. My mom, if you're watching. But yeah, and then my dad is like he owns like a construction company, so he's like a general contractor, and I don't know if that maybe played into it too, but he was always like a very creative, like he would like walk into spaces and kind of like put them, together in his mind. And so I don't know, I feel like we just grew up with like a lot of like weird creative influence and like a lot of really interesting and artistic people in our life. So I've always been more drawn to that versus something that's like a little more commercial or standard.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really kind of underestimated and hard to do, is to take elements that people, a lot of people have access to. It's not taking something that inherently is like really highbrow, but the final product is something that comes out really elegant. You know? And that's probably, hopefully, you know, I think that's something that comes through in a lot of your different work. I do appreciate in this the work with the male figure who has been here. And yeah, I'm wondering if that is anything, because there is something a little more playful. You were kind of talking about earlier before we started the talk that people were reading this maybe as erotic. Is that something you think is just a product of, are people just not used to seeing hands and feet, or is it?
So. Yeah, I feel like I do so much work, like the way that I make my living is like through fashion and product photography, and obviously like you mostly like in that field you're mostly working with like female subjects, which I love. You know, it's great, but it's also like it's like kind of like this constant draw, like whatever you're doing most of the time you want to like rebel and do the opposite. And so I've always been drawn more to like different subjects, whether it's like different body types or like ethnicities or whatever, or like genders, whatever it is that's like a little more out of the box. And I feel like you don't see a lot of creative like artistic work with men, and so it was never intended to be like an erotic thing. But he is my husband, so I'm like, who knows? Like, that's there. We have children, so
The natural,
it's just our natural state, So yeah, I think it was. I mean, it's something that I've always like. I was just talking to my mom about this too, where it's like Dalton is his name, he's over there. But he's like so hairy, and like it's such like his like arms and like his feet are so graphic. And so I've always like loved the way that is photographed, because like in an image it almost has this like, it just makes it feel like more raw and like human to me, which to me is like a lot more interesting than like a perfectly airbrushed arm or whatever. You know, it's different. Like you see like the veins in his arm, and you see like the scars, or even that photo with the lei, like we were cracking up because like he was like doing some work, and he like smashed his toenail, and his toenail's kind of gross. And I'm like, but I like that about the photo, because it just makes it interesting and different, and it's less about it being like delicate and feminine and pretty, and more about it being interesting to look at and all of that. So
yeah, like just hearing you talk about that and sort of shooting, whether it's Dalton or whatever model you're working with, kind of shooting them in their natural condition, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not forcing them into something else that they're not. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, it seems related to maybe the work with flowers or botanicals, where you're making an arrangement for someone and you're working with what you have. And, you know, even on a lei, some of the flowers are going to be bruised, they're going to brown.
Right.
It's not going to last forever.
And yeah, even like with like when we've done work with like Mayday or even at Pickle, like I feel like it's always like that weird crooked flower, or like the one that has like the extra like stamen coming out of it that's like technically deformed, but like that's the one that you're drawn to because it's different. And I feel like, yeah, I've always appreciated that with photography too.
So all of the work up at Treehouse was shot on film.
Yeah.
But I know you do both, right? You do film and digital. So what kind of goes into the process? Is that something that, is it just whatever your client is looking for? Is it something that, depending on, you know, the project or how fast you need to turn something around? What?
I think I've always tried to push my clients towards film, especially like in the last like couple of years. I just feel like the way that film captures color is really different. And we were talking about this like prior to this. But I do like make adjustments to my film, so it's not like this is like the raw film file, but I feel like the way that it captures like that initial photo, it's like you can't beat that with digital. And so usually if I'm shooting digital, it's more for like practical reasons. It's like we have like a deadline, or we need, you know, front side back of like this many looks, so we have to like make sure that we have that, versus the film stuff is like more creative, more for like campaign work. But if I had it my way, I would definitely do to just film.
Yeah, well, I love that you mentioned that you edit too, because it's like a total misconception that you're not supposed to edit film. Because anyone who's working in a professional capacity, they're not just going straight from the scanner to the client or to print. And then same thing on the other end. There's no digital photographer that's going straight from camera, right? So just that being sort of your base medium or your starting point. And the editing too, right? It's your what you mentioned before. It's just editing to bring out the colors that I mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's mostly just like kind of gently like tweaking the tones and all of that. So yeah, I just feel like you said, it's like the base of film. It's like something that you just can't get that with digital. I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way with film. There's just like a lot more feeling to it, and it's like a little more raw, and it's also a little more limited. Like it's like you get what you get. Like you have so many exposures. Like with this series, we didn't shoot any digital backup, which is always kind of scary, right? You're like, okay, like I hope we got it. Like I won't know until we hear back from the lab, and so you just there's like that element I love, because it's like, you know, what outtakes are you going to get? Like what, you know, is there going to be like a weird light leak, or is there going to be like a weird piece of like dust on your lens or whatever it is, like, or did the like subject move too quickly, or you don't know what you're going to get. And I think that kind of relates back to like the rawness of like the human, like, you know, like having like a male subject or having a more natural crop like a flower. It's like you get what you get. There's not so much control.
Yeah, I think that's a really valuable part of the creative process for photographers who shoot film, is that sort of necessary period of meditation between capture and then edit or print, where you take the photo and then it might be days or weeks depending on how you're processing, where you're taking it, before you actually see what you're working with. And yeah, sometimes you get it back and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, but I feel like that's so rare. Like I feel like most of the time, even if it's like messed up or damaged for some reason, like it's still awesome, and there's something about it. Like there's always going to be one, at least in my experience, unless you get like a bad roll or your camera just breaks, but like there's always something, even in the most messed up rolls, that you're like, whoa, like I never could have planned for this. And so I love that about that process.
And it's precious too, right? Like you said, you only have so many exposures, and so what you get, and you're not going to be able to recreate that exactly.
Yeah,
it's like that flower with the extra statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on, or anything else you've been working on?
I mean, right now it's like crazy, like holiday time, so it's like a lot of client work right now. But yeah, I mean, this is such like a fun, like not excuse, but like a reason to do something creative. I think I've been really fortunate where like work has been really busy throughout the last like couple of years, and so it's been really nice to have an excuse to kind of like put a pause on all things Emily. Like put a to like, yeah, basically just do something fun and creative that doesn't necessarily have like a practical purpose. Like I'm not selling like a piece of clothing, or it's just purely to create something beautiful and fun and colorful. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think definitely a job well done on all of those fronts. If you guys haven't or do get a chance this month to come and check out the prints in person, definitely recommend that. Beautifully printed on Honolulu paper.
Yeah.
If anybody in the Zoom right now has questions for Kenna, if you want, you can throw them in the chat, or just unmute yourself really quickly. But to give you a second for that. Close up of the prints. Yeah, we can try to facilitate that. Printed works on the wall. And Rainbow State, we've got it ordered. Our Rogi bib people here. The man behind the model. Okay, so Emily's asking what made was a male model for this.
Oh yeah, I think he jumped in after we had kind of talked about it, but we basically, I mean, I have, you know, Dalton, so she's like a good friend of mine, but she
free labor.
He's free labor, yeah. His rate was great. He's available whenever I need him to be. Those are his knees. But yeah, we were just kind of talking about how male subjects I personally feel are underrepresented in like the art world. And so I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to use a male subject. And I feel like Dalton, like specifically, like not even being biased, is like like we were talking about like the hair on his arms or like the veins in his arms or like muscle tone. Like it's just like in a photograph, like his limbs, his body parts like photographed in such a cool graphic way. Hi. He's like mortified right now. But yeah, like I just feel like it kind of, yeah, like I just like that, and it's different, and it kind of catches your attention because you don't expect that. I feel like it's mentioned in photos like these. So.
I love that that relationship between significant others, especially if you're married or you have kids together, you've been together for a long time. Like it's the stuff that nobody else notices.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that you're fixated on, and that's the stuff that you love too.
No, definitely, yeah.
Hairy arms.
I love your hairy arms. Yeah. Oh, hi guys.
Are the prints for sale, and are you going to have new print options for the holidays? So maybe on your website. Or...
Yeah, so there's pricing listed under all the prints in the shop. I've had like a couple. I just talked to another shop like on Island that wanted to like wholesale some of them, but I definitely want to be like updating my print shop, which I feel like I always talk about, and this has been like a really good push to kind of have more options. If you want Dalton's back on your wall, just let me know. But yeah, so it's interesting. Like I feel like with the print shop, I've always played it kind of safe. Like people really are into like the pink hibiscus and like the more delicate, like light kind of photos, which I love too. But I feel like these are more photos that I've always been more drawn to. So I would love to put these in the shop as like options. So
yeah, so look out for that. And yeah, with all of our shipping crises and everything, everyone's going to be looking for Christmas gifts. So.
Yes, and they're printed on Island, so it's like you don't have to wait for
printed locally.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. So Mark, I know you have a question. If you want to just go ahead and blast off.
Sorry, I suck at typing. So hey Kenna, I was there today, and I really liked like the quality of the presentation, and I really think that the quality of the presentation is something that a lot of people kind of don't pay attention to. I literally was looking up close at it, and Chris Rohrer was there, and I was like, oh, this looks like it's kind of so sharp. Maybe it could be digital. And then like he was like, no, it's film, So would you be able to tell everybody like what was the process with the film choice, that you used, camera, like where you printed it, the certain processes you did to present these works?
Yeah, definitely. I know we were talking about that right before we signed on to it. We were even comparing like the original scan from Treehouse to like the final print, and we were trying to figure out if it was maybe like the paper that made it seem less grainy or what it was. But I shot on like a 400 speed film, so I feel like that also like kept like the grain pretty low. And it was all shot in like really bright sunlight, so I feel like that has always I prefer shooting in that type of lighting, so I feel like that always brings like a really crisp, like sharp image. And then I don't know, like because I don't adjust the grain like at all when I'm editing, like when I tweak the final photos. So I don't think that it was that, but maybe we were also talking about how maybe like the Honolulu photos where that paper is just kind of like a softer matte paper. So I think it kind of brings down that like harsh like graininess that people are more familiar with film. But I printed them all at locally at Chromaco. And yeah, so I don't know, but maybe all of those things put together just created that look.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
What camera did you use?
I shoot on a EOS 1V, so I use like all my prime lenses, so that obviously makes a huge difference too, because the lenses that I'm using are all from like my digital kit, so like the images are really like the lens creates like a really crisp image too. And I actually just recently got that camera, and like it's pretty incredible, like how sharp the images are.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me ask you,
Brother.
Drew.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's high praise. When Mark
I know, I'm flattered.
praising your presentation skills.
Yeah, Mark Puccini's amazing. If you guys don't know who he is, he's incredible.
Yeah, so I don't see anything else in the chat, but you guys can contact Kenna through her website.
Yeah.
That's just kennareed.com.
Yep.
And then we have, if anyone stops into the shop here, we have all of her info, as well as the prints on the wall, flyers to take home. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Big thank you to Kenna for being here today and for sharing her work with us all month here at the shop. So happy start of the holiday season, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next month. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Good job, Kenna. Bye.
Bye.
Love the chat for you too.